A little bit after that time, I believe, you dealt with the unexpected passing of your mother, which in another interview you mentioned how kind of going through that steered you back into the arts a little bit.
She had been battling cancer. She actually beat it one time previously, which was kind of a miracle in itself. Was cancer-free for a few years, and then it kind of came back, worse than ever. So yeah, when I lost her, that was just like a big piece of me that was now gone. And I remember just driving home one day. This is a couple of months after. And I was just thinking back to my childhood because as a kid, like that's what I did a lot. I was like drawing. Yeah. And she was just always like, it's so great and you're so good and like moms do. And I was just thinking like, damn, yeah, it's been a long time since I've drawn anything. Like that was such a big. I used to do this all the time. Like, I should just.
How much time in between would you say it was?
It was like 10 years.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. Like I didn't zero art. Like wasn't even on my radar.
Yo, what up? It's your boy Rubino.
And this DJ in the building.
And you listening to the UpNUp Podcast.
Yeah.
Wait, what are we doing?
I don't know, just listen.
Yes. Welcome.
What it do?
Ladies and gentlemen, you're tuned into the UpNUp Podcast on the UpNUp Network. I'm your host, Rubino.
I'm DJ man.
How you doing, boss?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm good. I'm feeling good. Energy is, what I say last episode, high frequencies.
Yeah.
That's what we're on this year. High frequencies, good energy in the room. Shout out to everybody in the room, the family, team, the guests, right?
Yes, sir.
And I also want to shout out the listeners out there, first-time listeners as well. As I stated, this is the UpNUp Podcast. This is the podcast where we're focused on cultivating culture, right?
Yep.
We do that by providing amazing stories of individuals, groups, movements, right? The hustlers, the shakers, right? People who are breaking down barriers, taking up space, not only for all of us here, but for those coming from behind, the next generation, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you know. Yeah, Erm knows. And Erm knows exactly why we're here. But yeah, man, super excited. And again, if this is your first time tuning in, welcome to the family. I think we should just get straight to the purpose of why everybody's here, right? And I think it's important that, for those who are first-time listeners to understand that we really try to get into the journeys that people have been on because it's important to allow them to pay it forward by sharing their journeys and how they've kind of attained what they have. Because we can all learn from each other, right?
Yeah.
And today's guest, I would say, is someone who truly represents what it means to take this thing we call life and use it as his own canvas, right? To really like reflect the everyday magic that's around us, right?
Yes, sir.
He's definitely a true culture cultivator who's keeping everything he's doing on the up and up, right?
Yes,
Otherwise,
sir.
he wouldn't be with us here today, right? Right?
Yes, sir.
He is a world-renowned artist, widely known for his pencil art creation style, and he's known for creating some of the most iconic and memorable pieces that reflect not only historical moments but the people who've created those historical moments. Some would say a modern-day Picasso, maybe. Right?
Hey.
If you let me tell it, I'm gonna say that for sure, 100%.
Yes, sir.
And really, as someone who represents the arts and creatives of the world, aside from the iconic work that he's done and that has inspired so many, what's even more amazing is the impact his work is having on so many lives, where he's been able to create his own philanthropic machine that is actually fueled by his creations to raise money for so many around the world that are in need. And like he said it himself, he's just getting started. Right.
Yeah.
But there's been a journey that got him here. And so we're super excited to learn more about it and tap into it and dive into it. So without further ado, let's just get straight to him, man. Our guest is none other than the good man himself, Keegan Hall. Can we get a round of applause?
Yeah.
Give it up.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
How you doing, boss?
Thanks for having me, man. This is dope.
Thank you for being here, man. How you feeling right now?
I'm great. I'm energized. My wife's with me, so like, where else would I rather be than with y'all right now? So this is awesome.
We appreciate you, man.
We appreciate you being here, man. It's an honor and it's a pleasure. So to give you a little insight, we always start every episode with a quote of the day.
Okay.
Something to get the vibe right.
Yes, sir.
Brother man He's the man of the quotes.
All right, man.
What you got for us?
I got you. So the quote of the day today is, "A noble purpose inspires sacrifice, stimulates innovation, and encourages perseverance."
Yeah. Who's
Love
that
it.
quote by?
Gary Hamill. Yeah.
Okay. I
Like that one?
I like
I
that.
love it, man. Yeah,
I
you gotta
like
have
that.
a purpose, man. Once you got that purpose aligned, like everything else starts to fall in place.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but you got to start with the why, right?
Yep. Starts to get everything going. So,
Yeah. That's what keeps you going, by the way.
It's funny actually because I mean we'll probably get into this, but you know I used to work for the Seattle Sonics, and I was a big quote guy too. So like every day to start the day for the company, I would actually send out a quote every day too. So I love that you guys start with that too, because I just love hearing like the wisdom from people that came before us, and just like trying to internalize that and see how I can apply that too. So yeah, man, that's home run right there.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I like how it sets the tone too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you feel me on that. So.
For sure.
We all love quotes, man. Definitely. Now, obviously, as I mentioned, we definitely what we do here is we obviously get into people's journeys, right, and then the stories. But before we do that, I did kind of want to get your take because as someone who's an artist, a creative, who has attained a lot of success thus far through your gift and contributions, like, and from your perspective, how would you describe kind of the role / importance of art when it comes to just kind of progress in our society and the world? Because I think it plays a major role.
It does, and it always has since the beginning of time, really. I mean, art tells the story, and it could tell whatever story you want to tell. So it kind of depends what area you want to play in. I mean, for me personally, I don't go too deep down like the political side or some of those, but there's definitely an important role for art to be played there. For me, I like to stay obviously sports, music, that inspiring side.
Yeah.
And I think that can almost be equally important, like trying to get get people excited, giving to people an opportunity to connect with your art in a different way that can kind of inspire them to do something great. So I think that's what's always been good for me is like using my art to reach out to people. And I think just the art world in general, it can kind of be a little bit scary if you're not an artist. Like if you go into a gallery, it can be a little bit intimidating, right? Like you don't really know what good art is. So like one thing that I really try to bring to the table is, doing hyper-realistic art. Hopefully it looks like how it's supposed to look, and it takes a little bit of the guesswork out of that. So I think I try to bring like a new wave of people into the art world, so I think when you're talking about like what role does art play, I mean this is like a new basically building a new channel into the art world for people that maybe were a little bit scared of even putting their toe in the water to begin with. So I think like just bringing those people in and then hopefully taking them along for like a bigger journey, exposing them to a bigger side of the world of art is just the beginning for them.
No, that's I'm glad you described it that way, because I think there is no right or wrong way to create an entry point, for people. It's about connecting first and foremost, right?
But I hear that all the time. It's like people, they are scared and intimidated, and as a result, they just don't even go near it.
Yeah.
So they don't get exposure to it. They don't learn from it, and it's just such a missed opportunity. So I think hopefully with my approach, and I go to schools and all that, and talk to kids, and like just hopefully just bringing people into this world that could be so exciting, so fulfilling. For yourself and other people. It's just getting people in the door.
I love that, bro.
Definitely.
Thank you. That's a great way to describe it.
Yeah. So speaking of the journey, let's take it back. So definitely would like you to explain your upbringing, early life, childhood. So.
Man, well, if we go way back, like kind of a story that I tell often, it's like when I was a baby, like my parents were both really big athletes. And once they were older in their 20s, whatever, they still played like rec league stuff. And so my parents were on a softball team, and they were warming up before the game. And my dad was like holding me, again, just a little baby in his arms, out in the crowd. And as they were like doing batting practice and fielding practice, the shortstop fielded a ball, rifled it over to first baseman, and it like overflew him by like a mile, and actually hit me square in the skull.
Oh, wow.
And like the whole place just stopped, like panic ensued. My dad took off into the friggin' parking lot. And the story I was told to me was like there was someone pulling in to the parking lot as he was running out, and he basically like stole their car and drove to the nearest fire station.
Yeah.
Where they kind of assessed the damage, that it was like way beyond what they could control or what they could handle, and I took me to Tacoma General Hospital.
Oh yeah.
And obviously I'm here, I live, but my skull was fractured in like 8 spots, and it's kind of a crazy just start to life, you know, like right out the gates, like bang. So that was always like the running joke with like, would I have been like, was I way smarter because I got hit, or am I way dumber because I got hit? Like, I mean, flip a coin.
You can't forget that though. You know, that's
for real.
That's a moment, man. But
so that's starting way back.
Yeah,
but, I mean, even from there. So I grew up in a small town, Sumner.
Yeah.
So hopefully y'all know where that's at. Usually I'm like, oh, it's by Puyallup, Tacoma. I keep spreading out until they recognize a city. But yeah, I grew up, you know, not a lot of money. We actually lived in a trailer park for most of my life till I got to high school. And just to make things a little bit more challenging, I had one sibling, a sister, who's disabled. So, I mean, you can kind of imagine like that family dynamic of, you know, you live in a trailer park, your only sibling is disabled. So, like, there was a lot of kind of social dynamics that came along with that, right? Like, you go outside. You go to the store, everyone's like staring at you because you know, she has cerebral palsy, so she can't walk. She's got big braces on, and she's legally blind, so those big glasses. So, you know, you kind of learn a lot about people. Like I was like an observer from a very early age because I kind of felt those eyeballs on me, and I would kind of take a step back and kind of learn to kind of read the room about what people are thinking, and I think it definitely influenced, like, you know, when you're around like. I was always around disabled kids because that, like, we should go to like therapy every week, and you're just around that, and you see like a different perspective of like an underserved kind of community, and like what it means to be like something so simple as like being nice to somebody.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that like those early years of being around that and observing that definitely played a role as I grew up, and turned me into the adult I am today.
Yeah. No, I think it's crazy because that's like a running theme on this show. We love to talk about people's upbringings, not only because it's part of the story, but I always say like a lot of the things that we kind of experience as we're younger really play the biggest role in who we're going to become, you know, but sometimes we don't really reflect. We kind of just go through the motions, but if you can connect the dots, you know, it paints the whole picture for you.
Well, that's what's so wild because I look back now and I definitely reflect back a lot more now that I'm older and kind of like the whole nature versus nurture and why am I the way I am. And man, I was like that really quiet kid who probably, if it wasn't for sports, I just would have been like invisible. Yeah. Like, thankfully, I was good at basketball.
I read that you was a hooper, man.
I played. I look back at that. I was like Jamal Crawford's year, so I had to like guard him.
Oh damn!
They came to a tournament at our high school actually, and they won the tournament, and I had to guard him. And thankfully, his team was so much better than ours that he didn't have to do anything. So I got off that game.
Let you off the hook.
He could have made me look foolish. But yeah, so like. Thankfully, I had like the teams, you know, growing up that kind of kept me involved socially, and then you know, I was like, you know, the captain of our team, which we were horrible, so it doesn't really say much, but just
you got to own that, man. You're the captain.
Having that
someone got to be the captain.
Someone got to be that by default. But just being in that position, like, you know, gave me access to other social opportunities that, like I said, if I didn't have sports, I just would have like blended into the background.
I'm curious though, because I did read that you were along with sports, you were involved with the arts. At one point, you were creating art and you were selling art at a local bowling alley, right? But I'm also curious to be involved in so many things as kids, like most kids are and teens. You did mention kind of like how it was kind of hard to find where you fit, right? When you may be good at multiple things, but everything you're good at does come with its own social group. So like, I guess, do you have some tips on how to navigate that for maybe kids or, you know, younger folks that are coming up?
I mean, I think it's good to have different groups of friends for different things. Like, especially for me, like I have no friends that are like me, really, across all these different verticals. So there's nobody that I could just get complete fulfillment from that one person, because there's just too much diversity in what makes me. So I think a lot of people they try to find that perfect group, and it's okay going between a few. Like I grew up, I was a skater, a skateboarder.
Okay.
I used to have long hair, if you can imagine that. So I had like the baggy pants and the ripped jeans and all that, all through like junior high, middle school, whatever. But I also played ball, but I also did art. But I was always into like entrepreneurship. Like I used to like collect cards and comics and buy, sell, trade, all that fun stuff. And so I think, and maybe it was just because of the environment I grew up in. Like I just had a lot of time on my hands because if you don't have a lot of money, you don't have a lot of resources. You got to kind of entertain yourself.
Yeah.
So like you mentioned. Selling artwork at the bowling alley.
Yeah.
That was like, I remember we did like a class project where in like elementary school where we made these like stuffed animal bears. Yeah. And I figured out a way how you can kind of like make themes out of these bears. So I made like Batman ones and like, and I like stitched them all by hand, cut them all out of this felt, stuffed them. And like I would go to the bowling alley and sell these for $1 each. So like at a very, very early age, I was like trying to figure out a way to make a few extra dollars here and there.
Playing them seeds, man.
So that's kind of how the entrepreneurship started.
Yeah, but see, that's what I say. Like sometimes all those things play the biggest role for what's coming in the future, even if you don't really know what's coming.
Yeah.
And kind of taking it from, I guess, that part of your life, coming out of high school, you did attend University of Washington, and you were in the arts program there, which I think I'm curious, just kind of the arts and being a college student is I think it just comes with a certain narrative that is normally kind of like pushed on students who want to go into the arts. But like, I guess, what was that for you, or what was that like for you?
I mean, I was the black sheep of my whole art program. Like, again, there was nobody that I could really connect with across the board, because again, I was like very business minded, which doesn't typically go with art. I like sports, that doesn't go with art. Like, so there was like nobody who I could really connect with across all these levels. And I mean, I remember I was one of the youngest students to be selected to their study abroad program in Rome, Italy. So I got to go there and spend 4 months in Rome and just absorb art and live with art students. So it was awesome to get to know people at that level, at a deeper level, and learn what makes them tick as artists, as people. Because I think on the outside, everyone has this preconceived notion of what it means to be an artist, and there's certainly a stereotype that comes along with that. So it was great to get that exposure to them, and maybe vice versa. But I think, in terms of like my time at UW as an artist, I've always taken this mindset with art that's like, I don't want people to like BS themselves too much when it comes to like the creative process. Like too many times, because I've been on both sides of this, where like, the example I give is like, I remember there's like this TV commercial on several years ago where there was like this artist forgot his he had an art show coming up, he forgot all of his canvases. He's like, what am I gonna do? And he just went and he just put up a blank white canvas at his art show, and then the people are like, oh my god, it's so amazing. Like the snow, it's like a blizzard, right? He's like, yeah. So it's like that kind of stuff. It's like, I don't know. And there's a lot of that kind of mentality in the traditional art world too.
Got you.
So I think that kind of feeds that intimidation factor, because people are like, I don't know, the blizzard, like I don't really see that.
I don't see it.
So I think you got to cut through that a little bit. But on the flip side, there was some very, very talented artists too, and I want to like put those people up on a pedestal, and whether it's like abstract, whatever your style is, there's still excellence in all those different mediums and styles. So I mean, everyone's got to kind of figure out their own place and their own thoughts and opinions on art. But that, it kind of goes back to like, I want to bring people into art and expose them to the different styles, and let them make a decision for themselves.
No, that's real.
Yeah,
that's real.
I kind of wanted to ask you a little bit more about like Rome, like being out there. Like, what was that like experience like for you? Like, did you pick up like certain things like artistically that you kind of like brought back?
A little bit. I mean, art. in terms of like teaching art, I think you can only learn so much in the classroom. Like art is very much just like repetition, exploration of yourself, and developing whatever style you want to do. So a lot of that's done outside of the classroom. Yeah. But I mean, it was just an amazing time because I mean, you can imagine like a young college kid. Yeah. You get dropped off in one of the most amazing cities, and probably the most amazing city when it comes to art. Yeah. So it was like my apartment was a block away from the Vatican. Wow. So I would like walk past the Vatican every day to get to my classroom, and our classroom was located in the Campo di Fiori, which is like a really popular like town square in Italy. And there's this statue in the middle, and I actually have the statue tattooed on my chest now because it was such a big part. The statue, this guy by the name of Giordano Bruno, who was one of the first people who thought that the Earth wasn't the center of the universe, that it revolves around the sun. He had all these like he like learned like real science, real facts, and like at the time, this went against everything that the church stood for. Yeah. And as a result, he was actually burned at the stake right there in that town square.
Oh wow!
Oh wow!
So and then eventually it came to be that he was true. Everything that he said was true, and they made the statue. But it was like, for me, it was like, he was one of the first, or at least he was such a free thinker, and he stood by his principles and what he felt to be true to the point that he was willing to die for it. So that was like one of the reasons so I got the tattoo, just not only remind me of that time in Rome and Italy, but just like there was a bigger reason for that. And I think that trip in general, you learn so much about yourself, and that was just one of the small things that I learned. But being able to travel around, like we went up and down Italy, Milan, we went to like all the way out to like the middle of nowhere and like these farms, like these wine villages. It was just crazy to have this type of access to opportunity like that. So it's funny. We're actually planning a trip to Europe. I haven't been back to Rome since, and I have a daughter now, and she's heard some of the stories, and so she's excited to kind of have me take her through the city that I called home for 4 months.
Wow.
That's amazing,
That's
bro.
amazing.
That's amazing. And it's crazy what can happen in 4 months too, right? Because those moments, you don't forget them, but they also push you to, it's something that keeps that artistic fire still inside you, even if you may go down a different path, right? Which in your case, coming out of college, you kind of did, right?
I definitely did. Right?
Talk about that a little bit in terms of, I mean, you always love sports, so that it makes sense why that may have piqued your interest to go and kind of want to play, work for the Seattle Supersonics. But I guess, how did that opportunity come about out of college in terms of you getting involved with them?
Yeah, I mean, it really, even backing up before that, was like, I didn't think art was a real career path. And, you had all those people planting those bugs in your ear that it's not real.
Yeah, they're still out there.
And I even had a teacher tell me that, right? That, you're not that good and all that nonsense. And unfortunately, I kind of believed it. And just decided that it was just not an option. So kind of plan B was to figure out, how do I get into the NBA? Yeah. And unfortunately, I couldn't be a player. So the next best thing was working for our team, right? Yeah. So I remember I got in like the hardest possible way, where I applied. I was still in college at the time. I applied to be on the game day staff. So I only worked games. And it was like signing people up for like the loyalty rewards program. So I would work like 3 hours. It actually cost me more money to park my car than what I made. So I was like losing money going to work every day.
Wow.
But I got my foot in the door, met some people, and then the very next year, just as luck would have it, they were starting up like an inside sales team. The first time they've ever done this. And I kind of applied to that, and got hired, and then that was kind of the start of it. I was like the top salesman there, and kind of the promotion kind of went up from there. But it's just getting in. I'm
curious though. So I did actually see you did an interview with the Who Knew in This Moment podcast, and I was watching that, and you did talk a little bit more about just your experience in sales in general, but working for them. And what stuck out to me was the quote, "Nothing comes easy." Because I think people hear Seattle Supersonics and you work and you became the top salesman, but it doesn't just happen overnight. But like, can you talk about kind of like the grind in terms of you learning like the hard way, I guess, of like oh, this doesn't come easy. I had to figure this out.
Yeah, well, I mean, starting right off the top, it's like everybody wants to work in pro sports, right? Because it's the cool job, right?
Yeah.
So like you have really, really talented people, and then on the flip side, they pay you like nothing because they know lots of people want to get in there.
Yeah.
So right away, it's like this weird dynamic that you're playing against. And then in terms of sales, I mean, this is applicable really for any type of sales, but like you get out what you put in. So for us, and this is like kind of pre-social media days, and because now everything's done like online, even sales. But like we're banging, like I had to bang out like 100 calls a day, like every day.
It's tough. Yeah.
And you do that for like months on end. It like it takes its toll on you. But so for me, I would like try to make a game out of it. You know, like as soon as I like hung up, I would already just try to be on my next call.
Yeah.
And just like play little games with myself to get me not only through the day, but just all these touch points with so many people. And like over time, it's kind of like a microcosm of like a bigger, like small little seeds that are going to eventually grow into something big.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the thing, even though it was like super, super tough. I mean, people hanging up on you, they don't want to hear from you.
Yeah.
You know, you just kind of, but I tell anybody, man, everybody should start a job in sales wherever you are, man. Like I started like at Foot Locker, like way back in the day, and just learn how to talk to people and handling rejection. And these are like such important lessons that will pay dividends down the road. So if you can build that thick skin early, oh man, you'll be so much better off downstream.
Wow, man, that's dope. So obviously our Sonics left, so which is probably one of the worst days of my life. I'm pretty sure for you know, just all of us in here. But what was like the transition like after that?
Yeah, so it was even funny because I was there in the middle of it when the team got sold to Clay Bennett, and I remember him coming into our office and like he met all of us one-on-one and the team staying, all that stuff, and then my wife and I, we went to NBA All-Star Weekend in Vegas that year. And there's a whole another crazy story about how we got into this Elton John show. Oh. But it was this private show for all the NBA people, and I saw David Stern there, and I actually approached him. I'm like, hey, I'm Keegan with the Sonics. And he was like, oh, don't worry about it, man. The team's not going anywhere.
My God.
So I was feeling good. I had, a couple people telling me that, we're staying. Yeah, David Stern, top dog. So. But unfortunately, once the writing was on the wall that now the team's gone. There was one more season left that was like the lame duck season that everyone knew that. So I actually left right in the middle of that transition.
Oh, okay.
When I got actually ironically one of my Sonics clients offered me this great position, but ultimately it led me back to I was on this new career path of business. Right. So I'm thinking like, what's the next step to building my career in the business world? So it kind of made sense to like go back and get my MBA since my undergrad was like an art degree. So it didn't really pull a lot of weight in the business world. It took me back to UW and pursuing an MBA.
Nice. Just looking back, just on that time, do you have any like memorable moments from that Sonics era? Because it's tough that this is so long ago that we've had him here, but like, what do you have any memorable moments, things that like you remember?
Yeah, man. In fact, I still keep in touch with a lot of my friends and coworkers from those days. Like, they've all gone on to like awesome stuff, whether it's inside of sports, outside of sports. I mean, we had a Christmas party every year with the players would come to. Okay. So you got to hang out with all the players. I remember there's a few that would hit on my wife. That Christmas party, you should probably remember that. But even guys like Ray Allen, they're just like so genuine people. Like I remember like we're all pretty young salespeople, like in our crappy suits, like cheap suits. And I remember me and my buddy coworker were at the Christmas party, and he came over. He's like, "Hey man, I like your suit." And my friend's like, "Oh yeah, thanks man, like Men's Warehouse." And he was like, "Hey man, that's dope, man." Like, but he was like genuine, like So just being able to, I think, spend a little bit of time with people like that. Because you only see these people on like the highest pedestals, and you don't really know how they are. That's what's been kind of the coolest thing with some of my art projects too, is getting to know people outside of their like public persona.
Beyond the persona. That's so important, bro. It's so important, man. Because context is everything. Now I am kind of curious. We as we go through life, sometimes in life, we get kind of thrown the most unexpected challenges, right? I think anybody in this room can definitely attest to that. And then, so a little bit after that time, I believe, you dealt with the unexpected passing of your mother, which in another interview, you mentioned how kind of going through that steered you back into the arts a little bit. But can you share kind of like that process and kind of how that navigation back to art kind of happened?
Yeah, totally. So coming out of grad school, I jumped right into the startup world. So we had started a company in school, and then that kind of turned into a real company. We raised some money for that, and then I joined a different startup from the very beginning. We raised a bunch of money, and we're kind of off and running in this new direction. So like full on startup mode, business, all that. Yeah. That's my new path. Then my mom unexpectedly kind of passed away. She had been battling cancer. She actually beat it one time previously, which was kind of a miracle in itself. Was cancer free for a few years, and then it kind of came back, worse than ever. And I remember we got a call on like a Friday of like, hey, like you might want to come down. Like your mom, she's not feeling too well, and like I think the next day she checked into the hospital on the Saturday, and then like the very next day, Sunday, she had passed away. So it was like bang, 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 like, and it was like pretty traumatic for me because I was, so close with my mom, like growing up, like all those years, like she was always the person who gave me all that encouragement. Because again, being that shy kid, with like zero confidence, she'd always be like, kind of like plant that seed of like, why not you? Like I remember I did this project on like this marketing project on Nike in like high school or something, and she was like reading it, she's like, wow, you might be like the CEO of Nike someday. And I'm like, yeah, right, like that's ridiculous, but she's like, why not? Like, so
that's big.
Even though I didn't believe any of this stuff, I think those types of comments and endorsements and support over the year kind of like eventually blossomed. So when I lost her, that was just like a big piece of me that was now gone. And I remember just driving home one day, this is a couple of months after, and I was just thinking back to my childhood because as a kid, like that's what I did a lot. I was like drawing, and she was just always like, it's so great and you're so good, and like moms do. And I was just thinking like, damn, it's been a long time since I've drawn anything. Like that was such a big, I used to do this all the time. Like, I should just
how much time in between would you say it was?
It was like 10 years.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, like I didn't, zero art, like wasn't even on my radar. Wow. And I just came home one day and was like, man, what should I even draw? Like my favorite player is Michael Jordan. I should just draw Jordan. And I did that, and I remember I just posted it on like Facebook or something, and like a bunch of my friends were like, wow, this is like, I didn't know you could draw. This is awesome. And and like one person had asked me, man, could you do a drawing of Cam Chancellor, and I'll give you like $100. And I was like, damn, like $100. Like I'm gonna be rich, man, if I keep this going.
That bowling alley hustles back.
Yeah, 100. Like, get a couple of these lined up. So I did that again, just like right out the gates, like a Cam Chancellor drawing, and I remember I posted that online, and Cam saw that one, and then he shared that, and then that like started off like this whole new direction that was like totally unexpected. Of man, craziness.
A wave came in. I'm sure.
Big wave, but kind of started there with Cam.
Wow.
Dang, man. Yeah, that's crazy. So I kind of wanted to ask you like your approach to like before you draw something, like what's your process? Do you have like something like you do, or like what's pretty much the process that you kind of go through?
Secret sauce?
Yeah. I mean, first I just think of like what would I want to own? Yeah. Like what kind of piece of art would I want to own? Like what kind of player, what kind of imagery, like what would that be that I would expect, man, I gotta have that. And so I just kind of start off the list of like all my favorite players. Yeah. And just go from there, and then the next step is really trying to find like a good image or images. A lot of times I combine multiple images to create something new and unique. So just combing through something that's that I think would be visually striking, I try to look at like high contrast stuff, just to make it like, or just really iconic images in general.
Yeah.
So that's like what's been really cool too with a lot of my stuff. It's like people will know immediately the moment that I'm drawing, or if they see it out in the public somewhere, they just assume it's a photograph, right? And they kind of just keep it moving. They don't think anything of it.
Yeah.
But when they have that double take and they have that aha moment, like that's the magic. That's the special moment that makes it all kind of exciting. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of all over the place when I start, but just in terms of like trying to figure out what I want to do. And then from there, it's just grab your pencil and see what happens.
Yeah. And then for those listening, it's a pencil, by the way. Like, it's a very distinct and unique style.
Yeah.
It's weird, man, because there's no like pencil artist. Like it's very, because I kind of avoided the gallery circuit. Like I did actually I did connect with a gallery here in downtown Seattle, and I had a show there and all that stuff. But if you go into any gallery anywhere, there's just pencil art's like not even represented. Yeah. So and I don't know why that is. If it's like people are thinking it's like the pre. The artwork to like the real artwork.
It's like they think it's like a rough draft or something, but it's like nah, it's not.
Yeah. But so I think it's been a missed opportunity for like everybody that's come before me, like that it's just not represented, because I think when it comes to like people appreciating your work, like who hasn't used a pencil to draw something? So you're thinking, man, that's just a pencil. Like I know what that is, because not everybody paints, not everybody sculpts. They can't really connect on that level. But everybody knows what a pencil is. So then they can really appreciate what's coming out of that thing.
Yeah, definitely, man. Because you're probably the first pencil artist that I know. Honestly, you know what I mean. So, but you're right about the double take. Like even when I think the picture that you drew of Jordan when he was jumping from the free throw line, I had to like stop and like zoom in. I'm like, this is really a pencil, So I don't know. I just think it's really dope, and it's just dope. I can't
that one
even
was
explain
crazy because I remember I just posted it on Reddit with no expectation. Like I just put it on there and like went to bed, and like the next day I woke up and it was like bonkers. Yeah. And now it's like one of the most upvoted posts in all of Reddit history. Wow. And it was just crazy. Like I started to read through the comments, but there's like so many, and but people arguing like, oh, it's not real. It's like a photo filter. It's
you're like, should I just dispel this, or I'm just gonna let them bicker?
They figured it out. Like, no, if you zoom in, you can like see the pencil strokes here, but it was just like chaos.
Damn. I did want to stay on that topic of social media, because part of kind of what kind of catapulted you was social media. Can you talk about kind of, I guess, for the artists and creatives out there, just kind of the power of releasing your art with no expectations? Because I think a lot of times people hold on to art. They're so concerned with who's going to like it, who's going to connect to it, that it gets in the way of you being able to release. Like, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, if I'm understanding correctly, I mean, because I think you can be, it depends what your motivations are. Like in the beginning, I didn't really have a big motivation in terms of like becoming an artist per se. I just kind of put stuff up every once in a while. But I knew from the very beginning, like my motivation was like, man, if I could figure out a way to, use my artwork to raise money. Like, so I kind of like thought about that really, really early on. So like when I would then post something, there was like a reason behind it. I wasn't just throwing stuff up.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But also, I think for a lot of artists, like, you got to be able to tell your own story of you and your artwork, because that's what will ultimately resonate with people. Because there's a lot of great artists, but there's just no connection points for people to really become a big fan of that. So for me, like, that's one of the reasons why when I post on social media, I take people through the full creation process. Like you see that first ugly sketch of the thing in the beginning, and then like I give people insights to what I'm like thinking or what I'm doing. And then as you go through it, like you see it slowly come together. So I think, just people get so much more absorbed in the art itself. And, by the end, they feel like so much more part of the piece, and it's a part of the creation process.
Its context is important, man. I even correct me if I'm wrong, but it takes a lot of time to do the pieces you do.
Too long.
Yeah, a lot of time.
I bet.
Can you like talk about that a little bit? Like, how long would you say, or for some of your pieces, like, is a average length of time to till it's complete?
Yeah, it depends on the piece itself, obviously, but I started off because I always had to like readjust my mindset of like what I'm doing, like, because in the beginning it was like, oh man, like 5 hours is so long, and then it was 10, and then it was like 30 hours on a piece. Then I was like pushing 50 on some, and like the Jordan one was like over 300 hours.
Wow.
You know, so it's like, but as you continue to challenge yourself, you just got to know that this is going to take longer.
Yeah.
And you got to adjust your mindset accordingly. Because I know so many artists, they're like, man, I get so bored on like doing the same thing for so long, and you wanted to start something new. And there's always that inclination to do just that. But I think part of like training your mind to fight through that, because ultimately, like at the end of it, to create a piece like that Jordan one, that it was just so challenging for so many different ways, which we could get into if you want. But like most people won't even try that because like that many small faces. I remember reading the comments like, oh, it's got to be like the size of a wall to get that much detail in those faces. But it's like, it was not. It was like this big. It was like 22 inches by 30. Like, and like hundreds of faces. So like, you know, so I think you got to be able to just like train your mind, get comfortable, knowing that you're in for the long haul, and it's like a daily battle to like slowly put one foot in front of the other and know where you're trying to get to.
Because I'm glad you, because man, I think that's a side of art people don't appreciate, you know? Like, people appreciate sports and athletes because you can see the physicality in it, and you can see, oh, they're in the gym working, or they're doing this to be able to do what they do. But I think what you're talking about is something that maybe the average person doesn't even know exists.
Well, it's, I mean, you want to be good at anything. I don't care what it is. It's about consistency, right? So, like, I mean, I work like 7 days a week, you know, and I used to be like work late into the nights, to like 2 in the morning, whatever, and then I kind of flipped it. So now I get at, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm up and at 'em and like going in. I do it, that's 7 days a week. And like, again, when these pieces take so long to do, you just got to keep chipping away. So like, no days off.
I like that. Like that.
Yeah. Well, speaking of faces, it was kind of dope how like you hide your face in the pieces. So how did you like think to like even do that?
I can't even remember how it started originally. It might even have been like some weird like meme that was online. I remember there was something going around where people were taking a picture of like holding up my drawing or something, and then somebody would take a picture of that picture and put them. I don't know. It's like this like Inception thing. I think that's how it like started. But I think it's just the idea came of just being able to connect with people and bring them into the art in different ways and have multiple levels of experience. So like, I think, when you, like we talked about, when you have that aha moment that this is like a drawing, that's kind of like level one. You get into it, you're really appreciating like what it is, like the line work, you can see the shading. And then there's just like that little cherry on the top where it's like, sometimes I'm like a person in the crowd. So it's like, oh, he's the camera guy and whatever. And then sometimes I'm just like hidden into like a jersey fold or something, so
that's dope.
That's really
it's
dope.
like the extra thing,
it definitely gave me like Where's Waldo vibes.
So
I
for
was
sure.
like, man, that's dope though, so.
And people are like, they're waiting for that now. That's like whenever I post like a final drawing, they're like, I just found you, man. They're like, where you at? And it's like, now it's like a thing that I gotta keep doing.
That's dope, man. So. That's dope. It's a creative way to keep people engaged with the art. I did want to kind of veer into not only how dope your art is and how great it is, but how impactful it is through kind of the philanthropic model you've created, where you're able to raise money, which looks like you've raised close to $700K and counting thus far through your art pieces. So can you kind of just touch on, like, do you get time to reflect on that, just to think like, damn, like I'm doing this through something that I just
I tried
was
to.
having fun with at one point?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it too a lot. My wife, she's really into giving back too. So it's kind of part of our family, like our family DNA, so to speak. But yeah, I mean, it adds up, like consistency. It's like these little bits over these years. And I remember that first one. I didn't even know if it would work. With Richard Sherman, and it was kind of just a crazy thing where I just saw him post about his like softball game that was coming up, his charity softball game, and I was like, oh man, like should I reply to his tweet and tell him about this like crazy idea I have? Like, you're not even gonna see it. He's not even gonna respond. He's not like. I was like, oh, screw it, I'll just do it.
Shoot your
shot. Yeah, and he replied, and I was like, I sent him a DM with like, hey man, I got this idea. Like, I'm gonna do this drawing. I will do 200 prints. I'm selling for 200 each. 40 grand, we'll just donate all of it. Like, what do you think? And he was just like, right away, man, that's dope. Like, let's do it. And I was like, oh shit. So and then I still didn't know if it would work. Like, I thought it would work, but when it just sold out instantly, I was like, man, there's like something here.
Yeah.
And then it just, went from there. That was the first one, but having those proof points early on just kind of laid that foundation, because it started, even that very first project, his blanket coverage foundation, it was basically helping like underprivileged kids who didn't have money with like school supplies and backpacks. And it was like I saw myself kind of in that world. I was like, man, if I could help people like me or grew up in an environment like me, and even with Russell, project with Russell Wilson, like his charity was all about just exposing people, giving them access to new opportunities that you wouldn't get otherwise. So it's just like, man, I just want people to have an opportunity to be like whoever they want to be in whatever field they want to be in. Because I think so many people get pigeonholed into this career where it's like this linear progression. Like, you go to high school or maybe you go to college and then you just get your job for the next 30 years. And then people end up hating their lives, because they get stuck in this place that they don't want to be. So I think early on, if you can expose these people to these other avenues, man, that's like what I really, really wanted to do. So I think that the raising money is part of that, and then the other side of it is like visiting schools and like kind of telling my story and how I went from here to here to here, and just planting those seeds as widely as possible.
Yeah, no, that's important, man. And I just I'm a real big like enthusiast when it comes to finding intersections. Like, there's always intersections, and in your world, you found one. You said, okay, well, I can do philanthropy, I can still do art. I just got to find a way to make it intersect, and you did. And I think that's a great message. But you do need those proof points. I like that term. Proof points are important.
Well, just in artists too, I think a lot of them, like, you got to just have also a basic understanding of like business dynamics.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's nice to create art, but if there's no way to get it out into the public, and if no one wants to buy it, or you can't figure out how to move product, that's another major roadblock for a lot of artists. So like, I've gone into art classes too, and just be like, hey, here's like some things to be aware of if you're trying to like build a business behind your art. Because if you want to get from here to here to here, these are like the foundational elements that have to be in place. Yeah.
Do they teach that in art schools? I'm just curious. I'm not sure.
At my art school, it was like not even on the radar.
They're like, don't worry about that stuff. Like, what? I think. Well, hey, there's a void for it, so
That's what I'm here for. There's
a void for
education. Bringing it back.
Man, Keegan, man, you've been dropping so many gems, man, and we definitely appreciate you just being here and sharing your time with us. I did kind of want to ask. I asked a lot of guests this question, but I'm curious if you could talk to your younger self, right? Like the kid in Sumner, or even a little bit older, like 2023. What would you tell that kid, or would you tell him?
I would. A lot. I mean, it's crazy because, like I said, I was that shy kid, man.
Yeah.
And I thought, whether it was because of the dynamics with my sister, like people are looking at me, like I just felt like people always had a negative perception of me no matter what I did. And I would try to like go back and say none of that stuff matters. Like, those people aren't looking at you. They don't really care what you're doing in any meaningful way. So like, forget all that noise.
Yeah.
And just like be yourself, do what you want to do without holding back. Because I mean, man, especially now with social media, I can't imagine growing up with social media now when everything's just like out there, like whatever you do. So like a lot of kids are just caught up on that and like the image and like self-confidence is at like an all-time low, I think, for a lot of kids, because they see all these other things of like people living their best life.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that's like not even real.
No,
so
not at all.
I think you just got to be able to block out all those external perceptions.
Yeah.
And not let them get to you on a deep level, because for me, they got to me.
Yeah.
And I think they get to a lot of people. So I think they just need to know that that's not a real. It's not real, and there's so much more on the other side once you can kind of shake that.
Yeah, that's real.
And get in your own lane.
That's real. That's real, man. Now, I did want to give you a chance to speak to maybe some things you did have coming down the pipeline, or some things that maybe people want to know about, or even how they can further, I guess, support, the projects that you got going on.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my website's like the hub, right? It's just KeeganHall.com.
Okay.
Wrapping up a project right now with pro surfer Kelly Slater.
Okay.
The greatest surfer of all time.
Yeah.
He just won another championship, right? Like,
Beast.
He's the old guy out there and still like killing the kids.
He's like LeBron.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still doing it. So we're almost sold out. And then there's most of my projects sell out, but there's a few on there that if you still want to support. Again, every project's for a totally different charity. So like it's very diverse on who we're trying to help. So whether it's I guess Eddie Vedder sold out, Dave Grohl sold out, Jordan Morris is gone, but there's a couple that are still on there.
Okay.
But this year, man, I'm excited for this year. There's a lot of projects in the works. Man, like really big conversations with big companies. So I think there'll be more to come out here in the next like month or two.
Nice.
So they'll follow you on social media and stay tapped in.
For Seattle, if you're a Seattle sports fan and beyond, there's some pretty wild stuff in the works.
Okay. Well, you made it very clear that your plans are to be a future owner of the Seattle Sonics. So,
and I'm still. It's funny when I was. So Wally Walker was the president CEO of the Sonics.
Yeah.
He's also like a finance guru. Like he actually is really he's a certified financial analyst. So when I was in grad school, I was also interested in finance and I was an intern at his hedge fund.
Oh wow.
So he's part of one of the groups who's vying to bring the Sonics back.
Okay.
So I'm trying to get on Wally's good side and like what's like the smallest minority share I could get to get on the roster.
Come on, Wally.
So,
Come on, Wally.
Come through, Wally.
Man. Wow.
That's amazing, man. Well, I'm looking forward to it, man. Now, we do ask every guest this question before we wrap up things. So if you can, my brother, what's one word to describe what keeps you on the up and up, and why?
Man, I think just I mean, for me, like the big word that I always like resonates with me is perseverance. Because like there's always going to be ups and downs, but you just gotta keep your eye on the prize, right? So like for me, just like that consistent perseverance of just keep moving forward, especially like when I would speak to young kids, because they get so caught up on the small things, but you just keep it moving, man. Just like persevere. Keep pushing. This too shall pass, and there's brighter days ahead. So I think perseverance is my word.
Let's go.
Yeah,
I like that.
That's definitely the theme I was getting to.
Yeah,
so, man,
you
dope.
definitely live it. You definitely live that word.
Yeah,
I love it, man.
For
Well,
sure.
Keegan, again, man, we just want to thank you for spending time with us, sharing your journey, sharing your wisdom, and dropping these gems for the people, the listeners and viewers. I'm sure they just got a wealth of knowledge, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And inspiration. And you got support with us here at the Up and Up always.
Always.
Appreciate
We
that.
wish you much success moving forward. And with that said, I think it's safe to say, man, Keegan Hall is officially a member of the Up and Up. So
Yeah,
we get it,
sir.
man. Thank you, brother.
be here.
Appreciate you,
All
bro.
right, man.
Thank you, bro.
To continue supporting the podcast and the entire Up and Up movement, be sure to rate, review, like, and subscribe.
As well as follow us at _ the Up and Up on all social media platforms to stay connected with everything the Up and Up has coming your way.
Thanks for listening, and until the next one.
Keep it on the Up and Up.